Bonjour, je suis not manly et ici le voyage d'espace je ne sais quoi. Part 4.5. We're gonna come back to Kerbal for a comparably short episode here. Kerbal is the third planet of the system, 3,200 kilometers diameter on average, 85 kilometer atmosphere, and 2 natural satellites, the Moon and Mimas. It has 12 hours a days, but its orbit period is 365 Kerbal days, making it a lot more like the real Earth. Delta V requirements we already know about. To get to low orbit you need just under 5 kilometers per second, and to get to stationary orbit you need just under 2 kilometers per second, and to get away from Kerbal you need just over 1500. It's the easiest place to get science points. There's the most varying terrain here, mountains, plains, oceans, even flora out here, and air-breathing craft and devices will work out here. The trouble here is, compared to stock Kerbal, it's really high re-entry heat because of the really high speeds, and single stage to orbit craft are really tough to use here. Not impossible, and I'm going to show you how to make one in a bit. Let's take a look at the tech tree after our return from Moho. We still have many nodes to unlock, but none of them contain any parts. I've only got the stock parts for the most part installed here. The only stock part we're missing is the Rhino liquid fuel engine, which is way up on the top there. There we go, over at tier 11. That's it. Anyway, it may be nearly impossible, but it is not impossible to make a single stage to orbit craft. You need to get 1.5 kilometers per second up at 20 kilometers altitude and have a rocket thrust to weight ratio of just over 0.9. And you need 3.1 kilometers per second to do it. If you can do those things, then you can build a single stage to orbit craft. Make sure you expend all that jet fuel before igniting those rockets. Just leave some reserve for coming home. Here I am, I'm going to empty the tanks, make sure that all the jet fuel tanks are empty except for my reserve, and there I go, 3.1 kilometers per second. That is enough to get to low Kerbal orbit. General single stage to orbit craft design, place that center of lift behind the center of mass, right? The center of mass will shift as you expend fuel, so hey, take advantage of tank priorities to help maintain that center of mass. For Ferrum Aerospace specifically, try to get green stability values for most of the stages of the flight, not just the takeoff like I'm doing right here. Take advantage of flaps and spoilers. Flaps will reduce your takeoff speed, it'll reduce your landing speed, and spoilers will help you slow down in the air. Now, we've only got one unexperienced Kerbal there. That is Julie Kerman, and we're going to send her up. Oh, look at Julie. Sitting on the runway, blissfully unaware of what's about to happen. Okay, Julie, let's have some fun. Here I am setting up my flaps. I've got my fuel tank up there. I want to know when I burn all my jet fuel, and I've got my Ferrum Aerospace information up. Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah, Julie says, uh-oh, I think she knows what's happening here. Yeah, Julie, you're gonna go to space today. That's assuming we can even get off the runway. This craft is light enough for 2 Rapier engines. 2 Whiplash engines would have also worked, but you would need more rocket Delta V because the Whiplashes have a slower top speed. Using my flaps at flaps 2 to help take off there. Come on. Oh, Julie, you'll be okay. Up, 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 up we go. Don't worry, Julie, we're going to get you up into space and we're going to bring you back safe. We've got an RGS probe core aboard there. Now, Rapiers and Whiplashes catch hold and they really accelerate, starting at Mach 1.5. Until then, it's a balancing act between climbing and accelerating. We don't want dynamic pressure to exceed 40 kilopascals if we can help it. Otherwise, we do risk falling into Mach tuck, and that means we will fall straight down and we're not going to be able to recover. So we are just climbing up here. We're going to go to about 12 kilometers up, and then we're going to begin leveling off, and then picking up speed. This is the acceleration phase. We need to get to 1.5 kilometers per second at 20 kilometers when we're using these rapiers. Make use of flaps to maintain level flight and reduce drag. We need to use up all but our basic reserve jet fuel to increase the amount of rocket delta V we can use. So we're doing pretty good here. We're already almost at 1.4. You notice I've got one of those bottom tanks open there. I had an excess of jet fuel when I did my last attempt at this, so I am spending a little more time here in the upper atmosphere. You may remember that the upper atmosphere starts at 21 kilometers, or 20 kilometers. Almost there. And we've used a good chunk of our jet fuel. We're already picking up temperature gauges. Look at that. Julie seems to have calmed down some too. Almost. There we go, 1500, and there's 20 kilometers. Up we go. And when we ignite those rockets, we pitch up to about 10 degrees angle of attack. Make use of flaps to help assist that. The jets will help initially, adding some thrust to weight. We've got a thrust weight of 1.3 right now. But that's going to drop quickly to 1. Now we're flying high. Okay, once you get this far, it should be a little easier. Just pitching up here, our dynamic pressure is dropping considerably. The jets are almost out of air. Okay, I turn off the jets and I close the intakes with an action group there. Intakes, I believe, add drag with Ferrum Aerospace when they're open, so let's close them up. So, our rocket ascent. Reduce angle of attack as you accelerate to reduce drag. Use that time to apoapsis value up there as a guide. You can either use Kerbal Engineer or you can use the readouts that KSP 1.7 provides down on the bottom left there. Reduce flaps as you get up there. Again, the key here will be reducing drag to accelerate. Okay, we're going for an apoapsis of 94. Yep, we're going to lose some of that due to drag. So we'll get to 94 and then we will just apply little bits of thrust to keep it above 90. It should be easy sailing now for Julie here. When that speedometer changes from surface to orbit, that's a good cue to go to prograde hold. Look at that. See, Julie, it's not so bad. Maybe aside from those early temperature gauges, but hey, we've made it up to space. Okay, 84. Almost there. 85. We are now in space. Let's see how much delta V it'll take to close our orbit. Because we're already going so fast, it should not take very much. Yeah, sorry about the quick episode there. It was holiday break and, well, I didn't have time to film a full episode going to another planet. So, just this little quickie here right at Kerbin. I did promise a single stage to orbit craft back in the JNSQ space race, and now I get to deliver one to you. Hey, not bad, just under 65 meters per second, and we have just under 400. That is going to be more than enough to close our orbit, do some orbital maneuvers if we wanted, and then come back down. Now you notice I am not going to thrust at full speed here. Almost every single stage to orbit craft is going to have slightly offset center of thrust because of those tailplanes. So I'm going to go easy on the throttle to start and rely on those reaction wheels to keep us stable. You could also use thrust vectoring if your engines support that. See, look at that. Yep, there we go. You notice how we're having to point down? So we'll just do this last little bit right at apoapsis. There we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A little bit of puff in there. And there we go. We are in orbit 90 by 90 and we have over 300 meters per second to spare. Not bad. Not bad at all. Julie is having the time of her life. Now what about getting back down? Sure, we can come up to space, we can come up to orbit, but how do we get back down? Well, in this case, we'll set periapsis to that magical altitude of 37.5 kilometers, and we'll put it directly above the Kerbal Space Center. The craft should end up close to the KSC after it gets back to jet flight. The final spot may vary slightly though, but that's why we have some reserve jet fuel. We're getting it then we're going to use those fine maneuver adjustments in KSP 1.7. We do get a chance to take a look at this craft. It kind of looks like something out of a video game with those engine nacelles. I could just see this thing on the bottom of some screen shooting at aliens or something. I don't know. We're doing a very gentle deorbit again because center of thrust is not quite centered with the center of mass. There we go, 37.6. Good enough. Here we are. The re-entry at almost Mach 13. At the start, don't use an angle of attack greater than 10 degrees. You are going really, really fast. We don't want to flip out. Use negative flaps to maintain that if necessary. Set up heat monitoring now while you have a chance. In this case, I got Kerbal Engineer. I want to watch to make sure nothing overheats. The most important piece is going to be that Mark 1 inline cockpit where Julie is residing. We get to enjoy a nice Kerbal sunrise. There we go. That was not the craft heating up, that was the sun. Oh my goodness. I am not going to edit any of this out. I'm going to play it at 4 times regular speed just to show you that it is possible to bring one of these things back home. You may notice that I'm using Mark II parts on those engine nacelles. That's because they are a lot more exposed than the rest of the craft, and my last attempt with FLT 800 fuel tanks, it was pretty dicey. I got it to work in the previous version of JNSQ, but this one, because I think they turned up the heating effects, they exploded, and the thing barely came down. So I'm using Mark II parts. If you're going to build one of these things, you may want to start with Mark II parts and those big S wings exclusively. They will tolerate the heat a lot better than Mark I or 1.25 meter parts. Look at that. Now the temperature gauges are beginning to light up. Continuing our descent, reduce our angle of attack to prevent overheating and avoid flipping out. But if your AOA gets too low, then reduce those negative flaps. We do not want to flip out in the other direction either. We want to keep nosing up. Look at that. Things are getting pretty hot up there, but Julie is having the time of her life. Look at her. She's glad to be coming home. Oh boy, if only she knew the earlier tests of this prototype. We are going to lose signal no matter what. We're going to get that plasma effect. So, if you can, even if you do have a probe aboard, bring a capable Kerbal with you. Even if it's just a trainee pilot, that probe corps will help them come back safe. Look at that. We're still going really, really quick at 37 kilometers up, doing just under Mach 10. But we are leaving the deserts finally. Look at that. We're leaving the deserts and we're approaching the continent where the Kerbal Space Center resides. We're not doing bad here. The worst thing is up front with that nose cone. Come on, Julie. Whoop, careful there. We do not want to pitch up too much and we don't want to pitch down too much. I'm trying to keep my angle of attack at or near 5 degrees at this point. I dialed back my flaps some to help out with that. Just approaching Mach 7, close to stock Kerbal re-entry speeds. The difference is we are much lower in the atmosphere and our control surfaces are having a lot greater effect at this altitude. Oh boy. Okay, 2.2 kilometers per second. This is more like stock speed. If you can get down here, chances are your parts are going to survive nice and safe. Just make sure you do not flip out. Huh. Looks like the worst is over. I set my flaps back to positive and I close the flaps, set them to 0. There we go. And we're not too far from the Space Center. We got a bit of a flight ahead of us yet, but hey, that's okay. That's why we have that reserve of jet fuel. We actually have a lot more jet fuel than we planned because we didn't use up all of our Delta V in space. So I hope you guys appreciate this quickie episode. Just to show you that nothing is impossible in this game. And this is all with stock parts, so we did pretty good there. Now we're high enough up that we can turn the rapiers back on and open up the intakes. And there we go, they're opened up. So that was the hard part. We're now doing a mere Mach 4. We can reignite those rapiers and gain full control of this craft. So, landing. Let's see about landing. Gradually descend. Use the thinner air to your advantage. Use S-turns. If you can, use overlapping add-ons to make air brakes. They will work better than the actual stock air brakes because they can tolerate heat better. Here I am doing a gentle roll up to that peninsula up there where the Kerbal Space Center resides. My dynamic pressure is increasing pretty high, so I lower the landing gear to add some drag to this craft, and I'm continuing to do my turns. There's my S-turn. There we go. Let's get this thing back under control. Back and forth, not a problem. Do this high in the air while you can before you get too low in the air. You do not want to be doing more than Mach 1 in the lower atmosphere. There we go. Doing our approach to the Kerbal Space Center. I did notice that regular flaps was causing me to pitch up too much, so I'm going to get ready to do negative flaps on touchdown. You may have noticed that I forgot something else on this craft. Yeah, if you take a close look, where's my drogue chutes? I did not put any drogue chutes on this craft. Oops. Well, you'll see a cunning plan to save Julie coming up pretty soon. There we go, we're well under Mach 1. We want to be about 150 meters per second or slower when we get down to the runway. These wheels are pretty tough, but if you have the earlier career wheels, you want to slow down more. That'll mean adding flaps, designing your plane a little bit better for this approach. I've got the landing marker up there to help me line up with the runway. The trick to use the flag still works as well. Now, when you touch down, go to negative flaps 3 if you can, or just remember the drogue chutes for next time. Not bad. I'm going to do a bit of flaring, a little bit of rolling here to try to add some drag to this and slow ourselves down a bit. I never figured out the stall speed of this empty craft, so I'm just going to play it safe. I'll end up hitting the runway pretty quick, but that's okay. These wheels can take it. Got plenty of flat land to work with in this version of the Kerbal Space Center. We don't have that mountain range to deal with. Uh-oh. Julie's not liking this. You can always add speed. You cannot keep taking it away. There we go. Come on, Julie. Touchdown! Negative flaps, and brakes. We're planting this craft in the runway, and we got the brakes going. Come on, slow down. Am I going to run out of runway? Right about here, I see, nope, we're not going to run out of runway. We're going to come to a safe stop, even if it's at the opposite end of the runway. Way to go, Julie. You are now a fully orbital experienced engineer. You might not like it right now, but come on back to the spaceplane hangar. We'll get you your photo op. and then we'll get you back into the astronaut complex. Go have a rest. There's our thumbnail. Congratulations, Julie Kerman. And after that short little flight, we now have her up to level 1. There we go. Now she's got some basic engineer experience. We'll pick a next destination in the next episode. Until then, I'm not Manly. Fly safe.